Hey, art people. Wow, I feel like that was really squeaky. Welcome to another video on the artist couch, which, cheesy or not, is totally what I'm calling it from now on because I still think it sounds like a great segment. So today I'm working on adding color to this illustration, Wash Your Hands, and I think I'm going to enter it in a art contest that Flagstaff is doing. So, ooh, bicep coming out. What up? I'm really getting sidetracked. I think it's because I had a lot of caffeine today. But anyway, since I had a lot of caffeine, I thought, why do one thing when I could do two things? So while I add color to this, I wanted to make a video about the biggest misconceptions I had about myself as an artist for like years. Yeah, years. The biggest misconception I had about myself in general, I guess. So, I started, oh, and I'm adding blue. I guess I should tell you guys that. Because for the water, and I'm using some premium coloring pencils. This one is number 27. I've never actually looked at the name of these before, but I'll probably use some other blues too. There's lots in here. You know, give it some dimension. Anyway, so the biggest misconception I had about myself as an artist. So I started taking my art really seriously when I was in high school. So I was like, 16, 17. My pigtails, they're out of control. And I've been drawing like since I was little, but I just like really started doing it a lot, like all the time in high school. And I think part of that was because, I was taking art classes like every semester, and they were getting more, I guess, intensive, because as you get older, they give you more like interesting prompts and you have more control over what you're doing. So I started realizing like, oh, I really like this. This is like the only class that I feel engaged in. And also I think it's a testament to the art teachers that I had, because every other class was like, I just like slept through it or read books or listened to music. Like I was not there. And anyway, so around 16, 17, I started getting really into art, really taking it seriously. And one of my art teachers even suggested applying to VCU Arts. And I hadn't really thought about college at all, but the fact that my teacher thought that I was good enough to go to an art school, and VCU Arts is a really, really great art school, very selective, that made me think, wow, so I'm actually pretty good at this. So that coincided with, because I was 17, I think everyone's kind of like going through it at 17. It's such a tumultuous time. I would never go back. So, being 17 in general is like not really the bee's knees, but it was also a really hard time for me personally, because one of my friends had just committed suicide. I don't know why I just laughed at that, probably to alleviate how awful and tragic that is. So one of my friends had just committed suicide, so I was very depressed. So I'm depressed, I'm 17, and I'm taking art seriously, so I'm like turning to art as like a coping mechanism. And it's like becoming the only thing that I feel like I have control over, and it's like the only thing I really like doing anymore. And it was kind of like the only thing I felt good at in school too, because like when you're depressed, like, you don't want to do math. Like I was in trig, like, ew. So you don't want to do anything. So art was like my thing. It was my coping mechanism, and it was also something that I was getting really good at. So for years, all the way through the rest of high school and through like most of my college career, I thought that because I had channeled so much sadness into so much of my work, and I was getting really good feedback on the work that was tied to those feelings, because it was such like, when work is so emotionally fueled, it's like the audience can pick up on that, and they're like, oh, this means something, like, and they feel really attracted to it. So I was like, oh, my work is only good because I'm so sad, right? And like I thought like, oh, my work is only good because I have all these like heavy, like depressing feelings, and that's my inspiration. Like that's the source of like my work and what makes it interesting and good. So I haven't like done anything. I was talking so much. So yeah, for years I fully believed that I was only like, the only inspiration that I had for my art was like from being sad, and that like if I ever like started feeling happy, like what would I do? So like not obviously, but I thankfully after years like started to get over like my friend's suicide, like because you know time is really the only what's the word? The only solution? Healing? The only cure. So time is like the only cure for grieving and for sadness. And then a lot of the other things that were stressors were starting to go away. Like I was kind of finding my way in school. I was finding work, like job that I like to do. I had like better friends, healthier relationships. So I wasn't feeling as down anymore. And I was also getting better at dealing with my depression because I had like healthier habits all around. Like I started going to the gym, I quit like, you know, unhealthy things. And I started like, I would have my sketchbook and I'd be like, oh no, like I don't have any like deep dark feelings to dig into to fuel like some amazing artistic concept anymore. Like I don't have anything left to do. And I can't really say like exactly the moment when I started finding inspiration outside of being depressed, but it's like I got to know myself better, and in that, like actually that's it. So in leaving like mega depressed teenage Allison behind, I got to know myself better. Like what is not depressed Allison like who is this girl? And that like knowledge of self and like getting to like that growing process became my new inspiration, and that started a whole process, a whole project I should say. It's called Still, and that led into other projects, and from there I just like, you know, obviously I would still get art block just like anyone does, but I started feeling like finding more and more inspiration, which eventually led to other projects like my dream project. And it's like because I was like clearer and more interactive with the world around me, I was having more ideas. Like I'd been having vivid dreams forever, but I never thought to like make that an art project. And then like I've been really into mythology for a while, but I never thought to make that a project. Like I just started having more and more ideas, and I realized like, oh, I don't need to be like upset, and like I don't have to focus on negative things. Like art can be like happy without being shallow. So that was my biggest fear, was that like if I was in a good place, I wouldn't have anything like to say anymore. Not true. And so I grew out of that, thankfully, and now I have like all these new projects and ideas, and I'm just I still sometimes feel like I meet people who think, or I still like, it's like I remember if I could go back in time and tell like 17 to 19 to like 20 even year old Allison that like, don't worry, like being sad isn't like the only part of you that's interesting. Like there's so much more to you and to everyone. Like I just think it's something that people need to hear, because when you do feel that way, it just feels like I feel like it feels like you're underwater and you just like get comfortable and you're like, I don't even want to know what's up on the surface anymore. And it doesn't need to be like that. Like you can still make great things without having to be tragic about it. I feel like that was a big thing that I would see not I feel like I would see that a lot in the creative community, especially like this misconception that like artists have to be like starving or like tortured to be like talented, and that is not the case. So I just wanted to share that as I worked on this, because I was just thinking about it the other day, and I was like, I haven't heard anyone talking about this. So yeah, I guess in summary, that whole mentality, that whole approach to like what you needed to do to be like a true artist, like I totally thought only the only like good music is like the sad music, and the only like good movies are the sad movies, and the only like good art is that's inspired by like sad things. And I feel like that's not just, that didn't come from nowhere, right? Like most movies that deal with like more tragic things, and most music that deals with like those real raw emotions, like they're actually very good, and they're usually pretty critically acclaimed too. Like look at Requiem for a Dream, for example. That is a depressing movie, but also so good. I don't know that anyone would say objectively that it's not. I'm sure there's people who don't like it, but you can appreciate that that's a good film. So things like that totally fueled that misconception that I had, that like if things, and then there's like also like there's that general like dismissal of like pop music and other upbeat things, like they're shallow, like it's just like it doesn't mean anything. And it's like, yeah, maybe We Are Who We Are by Kesha and like TikTok by Kesha weren't like deep, meaningful songs, but if you enjoy them, that doesn't mean that they're bad. So the thoughts about what I needed to feel to be a good artist, and the thoughts about like what made art good, I was totally wrong about. Like things can be happy and even like not super deep and still be like enjoyable and good, because as long as like you're enjoying it, that's the whole point. So I am very glad that that's a lesson that I learned, and something that I proved myself wrong about as I became a happier, healthier person and continued to make art. Like I was still making art that I feel good about and that other people like. I would say I've found more success as a happier, healthier artist than I ever had when I was super depressed, but I can still access those feelings and make work about it. And I'd say I can actually make better work about it because I'm more motivated and I can think more clearly about like what I want to do with it. So good timing, because as I finished saying all those thoughts, I've also finished this drawing. There it is. Cute. So I'm gonna add like some text around here somewhere. I haven't decided yet, but the important part is done, the image. Yay. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think, if you ever felt that way, or if you totally disagree, or if you agree, or whatever. Just leave a comment. Please like and subscribe, and I don't know, I hope you have a great rest of your day or morning or whatever time it is that you're watching this video, and I will see you next time.